Welcome into our lives.
And welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
We're so happy to have you.
Join us as we embark on a journey of deep exploration, soul searching, and asking the hard questions.
With the goal of truly understanding the most aligned, empowered, and purposeful versions of ourselves.
We want to live an extraordinary life, and we're willing to dig deep to find out what it takes.
Buckle up, you're about to meet a new version of yourself, an extraordinary one. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Expanders Club podcast. My name is Brooke Harris, and I am here as your host, your guide, your spiritual BFF, just to enjoy this journey with you, to hopefully enjoy the journey, share some insights, share some wisdom, and share some really cool and interesting guests, which we have today. Excited to get to that. I'm also an oracle. I am a CEO of a beverage company called Good Milk Co. that I founded and have been in business for, I guess, like 8 or so years. And I also am an oracle. So I, use a bunch of different modalities to essentially gather information, energetic information from the quantum to help you understand your purpose, your soul mission, what feels in alignment with your soul. We can kind of get any and all answers that you want. I do love to focus on purpose, mission, superpowers. But we go places in sessions with me. So you can do that, and you can book in an hour session with me, a 45-minute session with me through an Instagram link, and we can explore. We can explore whatever it is that you're looking to understand, especially we can have a lot of fun with purpose and alignment and mission. Okay, so you guys may have noticed that I did not put out an episode last week. And that was not because we didn't have episodes available to put out. It was two things. One, I've been having this interesting battle within myself of the importance of consistency. And it feels like, many of you may be tuned in to the fact that we are entering a new paradigm and leaving the old paradigm, the old ways of being behind us. And that's very much actively happening. You're probably feeling it in just maybe feeling a little disoriented or not super motivated or not sure the next steps to take. And that's totally cool and all good, because this is a time to just kind of slowly figure it out. It's you wouldn't expect your newborn baby to get up and start running, right? So we're kind of newborn, we're newbies in this new paradigm, and we're just feeling it out and feeling what does or doesn't feel good and how we should act and be in this new way. And it's there's this resistance to the old ways. And one of the things I have resistance around is this idea of consistency. And sure, there's certain things where it's important to show up consistent, to have consistency in life, right? But this idea of consistency around business or content or things you're sharing publicly. And I would say in the old paradigm, the language is hey, you have to show up consistently if you want to be successful. So you have to post a certain amount of content, and you have to post this specific content like reels and whatever. And you have to, if you have a podcast, your podcast has to come out the same day, every week, same time. You can't miss a week or you'll fail miserably. And there's a bunch of things in our career world, marketing world, our business building world that have been drilled into us that if you are not consistent, you will fail. And I've just been feeling that is no longer true. I'm feeling the pull to value over consistency. And it's this inner battle because those things have been very much drilled into me running businesses for the past 10 years. So I'm holding on to this idea that I want to provide value over being consistent. So if I don't have the drive or the ability to show up one week with content that is adding value. And for a podcast, it's more than just the episode, right? It's like I record these intros. I want to add value here. I share on social media. I want to make sure I'm adding value there. I maybe share some things on Substack. I want to make sure I'm adding value there. So just like, hey, if I can't show up and really add value, I'm just not going to do it that week. And I think it's way more respectful to the audience. And it gives the audience an opportunity to catch up or maybe have some silence or to see what else they're being called to that week. And so just really kind of moving in the energy of value and showing up when I feel called and when I feel like I have something important to share. And also, our last episode was with Eric from the Unlock Method, and it was so incredible. It was about the 2025 astrological forecast. It was so incredible, but it was so dense with information that I wanted to give people space to really process that. And it's something I think it's helpful if you listen to a few times. I mean, I listened to it 2 or 3 times, and I probably need to listen to it another 2 or 3 times to really soak it all in. So I wanted to give people space around that too, and not feel like they had to stay caught up on podcasts. And there's just a whole energy to it all, the process that has been the expectation of podcasters, content creators, business owners in the past that just doesn't feel aligned for this paradigm. So leading with value instead of consistency, leading with want tos instead of shoulds. And we'll see how it goes. And I'm not perfect. So I have this inner battle within me of like, I should be doing more. I should be consistent. I should be, doing all the things they would suggest in Marketing 101. But I'm going to battle that, and I'm going to try and do things the way that I'm feeling called. And that is an invitation for you to do the same. Just add value. If you're adding value, I think all the other things, which are the reasons we are consistent, right? We believe in the consistency process, like all the other things will come. If you're adding value, people will be engaged, people will follow you, people will want to hear what you have to say, versus just like, okay, you're cranking out another episode, you're cranking out more content, but this isn't really like that interesting, or this doesn't really apply. Like, add value, and I think the reward will be much greater than being consistent. Note to self also. Also, if I'm being honest, life has been a little weird here in Los Angeles. And I've felt pretty imbalanced, like the collective, I'm pretty tapped into the collective consciousness, and I am an empath and an intuitive and all the things. So there have been some big things, the fires, the aftermath of the fires, and many other things politically and in our world that are freaking heavy. And I've been feeling that heaviness, and I'm just trying to find the balance, and I think it's a balance we all need to find for this year, is the balance in feeling for the collective, understanding what the collective's going through, helping in the ways that I can, and keeping my personal peace and centeredness and wholeness and clarity and joy and all the things that I want to be and show up as in my world and in the world to help the collective also. So I'm just trying to rebalance things. They got pretty out of whack, as I'm sure probably all of you listening have felt the same. You felt out of whack, you felt heavy, you felt like you moved out of your center a bit. Like, don't worry. It is so normal, actually. And it is actually like such a beautiful sign, like to have so much compassion for something outside of yourself. But we can't let it take us down, right? That's the hard part about being intuitives and empaths and sensitive people, is like, it can, if we let it, it can take us down. And we can't do that. Or we can go down, we can feel it, we can go through it, but we got to bounce back up. And we're going to have to bounce back up quicker this year because there's a lot going on. And so the real goal, I think, and the goal I'm working on, is how can I hold it all at the same time? how can I feel the weight of all the things going on in the collective and sympathize, empathize, help provide whatever services I can to help uplift the collective, and also stay in my light, joy, peace, centeredness, wholeness at the same time. Whew. And that's the freaking work, right? That's the work. And I think we're going to be working on that all year. Oh, yeah. You guys know. If you've been listening, you know what's coming for us this year. It is change. It's a lot of change. It is wind and fire. So work on getting centered, work on your wholeness, work on staying the light in the chaos. And you're going to be totally fine and you're going to thrive. All right. This other thing that is helping me right now is this concept. We saw life change in a moment here in LA, and we've all had experiences or seen experiences like that, right? Where life literally changes in a moment. Like, people are in their house making lunch and the fires come, and all of a sudden they're driving down the hill, racing away from fire, and their house is gone and all their belongings are gone and they have no home, or no things, and the entire city is impacted. So this city saw life change for the worse in general. And like, change, we can get into the spiritual stuff with that, but I'm just going to use that language for this moment. We saw life change for the worse in a really freaking scary way, in a really devastating way. We saw devastation come in a moment's notice. And that is a bit of a mind fuck. It's just wild. It's a lot to wrap your head around, and it could happen to any of us at any time, right? So there's a whole journey you go on with that, and that we all have probably been on recently, especially those of us in LA. But I just realized yesterday, literally, you guys, you can tell how deep, dark of a hole I've been in, feeling the collective pain. I just realized yesterday, wait a minute. If life can change for the worse, and I won't say realize, I remembered, because this is actually how I've lived a lot of my life and what's gotten me so far as an entrepreneur. But if life can change for the worse, or if a negative thing can come and change life at a moment's notice, at the drop of a hat, it can also change for the better at a moment's notice, at the drop of a hat. And something as enormously traumatic and terrible as a fire, there could be something that enormously good that comes in at a moment's notice and changes life. And that is really freaking exciting. That is how you shift the energy. I can feel the energies of the cells in my body shift and change. And that is how you start to pull yourself out of the hole and start to change your perspective and get some hope that, hey, we're on this ride and we don't fully know where we're going. There's a lot we don't have control over, and it can change at a moment's notice. And we, a lot of times, get to decide what lens we're looking through. Is that change good or is it bad? And if life can change in a scary way at a moment's notice, it can change. It can have as big of an impact in a positive, good way at a moment's notice. So that, I hope that helps. You guys, that to me was like a very hopeful remembering, and it was very energizing, and it was like, oh yeah, life is actually really good, and there's a lot of opportunity for really good, really big things. In some way, you just have to sometimes, and kind of a lot of times, unfortunately, we have to go through the hard to get to those big beautiful things. And that's a little bit of how the energy feels right now. So I hope that helps. I hope that you guys are orienting in this new way of being, this new paradigm. And like, I'm here to help. So I'm going through it too. I wish I had some more answers or like a instruction book. I don't, but I will share things as I learn them. And yeah, I think this episode actually will be really helpful. One, it's incredibly uplifting. Molly is just, her spirit and her energy are freaking incredible, you guys. Like she's an expander. She's so expansive for me. She is someone who just is like living. She just loves life. She sees all the little things, the little moments. Everything's like so special and so interesting and so beautiful to her. And I really love that. And she's also someone who has an expansive viewpoint, expansive perspective of all things. She's very tapped into energy. She calls herself an oracle. She does light language. She speaks with aliens. She visits other dimensions. And we get into all of that in detail in this episode. So it's a lot of fun. It is definitely one that you're going to want to listen to and share with your spiritual bestie and like have a powwow after. She also talks about a lot of practical stuff, you know, how she got to this place of expansiveness and enlightenment and connection to the universe, the trauma she dealt with, her then appreciation for her trauma or understanding of why it all happened, and her whole process. And it's really like, as much as I just told you, we're talking about, you know, aliens and other dimensions and some of this like stuff that would be considered a little bit out there, like she's really grounded. It feels like a very grounded conversation where you're going to be like, you're going to be nodding your head a lot and being like, yeah, yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think it will change your life. But if not, it will definitely change your energy. So excited for you guys to listen. Molly Jane, the Oracle. She does light language. I've done some sessions with her and it's pretty freaking cool and pretty powerful. So I highly recommend. She does these really cool, like she offers 15-minute sessions because literally, you guys, if you experience light language, it is so healing. Like you only need a few minutes of it. So keep an eye on her for those sessions. I highly recommend. That's like a good way to kind of dip your toes into her world. You can find her on Instagram at Molly Jane. She puts out really great content, super useful stuff. She is one of the few people I see that is really talking about the quantum field in a way that like resonates. And I don't even know if she calls it the quantum field, but you know, energy, things beyond what we can see, touch, and feel. Yeah, I cannot wait. I can't wait for you guys to experience this. Again, just the energetic uplift is going to be so worth it. So make sure you check out Molly at Molly Jane. Come hang with me on Instagram at _Brooke_Harris or at Expanders Club. And yeah, let us know if you have the opportunity. Please rate and review. Would love that on Spotify or Apple, whichever platform you listen to. And you guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have these conversations, share them with you, and you know, move us all a little bit further along on this journey. And frickin' welcome to the new paradigm. It is going to be wild, and I am so grateful to have you hanging out with me here. All right, we'll see you guys soon. Molly, I just like can't contain myself. You and I have connected a few times, but we've never connected face to face. And like, you do not disappoint. You are freaking this like glowing, bright white orb. And like, your energy is just something that I've never seen and experienced. It's really fascinating. Are you human? Not like, not to open it up with the weirdest question
Yeah,
ever,
let's
but
go
like,
weird. Let's go weird. Am I human? Well, you know, like, are we all human? Like, we're human in this experience, right? Did this variation of human come from an alien, like, alien, like, DNA modification thing? Maybe. I don't know. But I honestly, I do feel more alien than human,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I feel that you feel very light in a really like light visually and energetically. And I've always felt that when we've connected, but seeing you is like, sorry for everyone listening, I'm having like a little bit of a trippy experience here, witnessing you. And I think one of the things that I love about you, and it's so clear now, is like you are just so, you have this authenticity to you. You have this, your energy is very much your own.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, something I've never experienced, something it's super fascinating. But how? How you feel very, and I know in the language that like in our sessions, the language that you use, and I recently started following you on social media and like love everything that you put out. You are very evolved and very a very awakened being. So I think starting there so that everyone knows like this conversation is going to go to some interesting places, but we all like that is the conversation we're having on this podcast, Expanders Club. We all want to evolve. We all want to awaken. We all want to transform. I think a lot of us don't exactly know what that means or what the end point looks like, or, you know, if we're doing a good job or not. But I think you've done a great job. Whatever you're doing, can you tell us how you got to this place? And do you resonate with what I'm saying? Like this authentic, awakened being?
Absolutely, I do. And first of all, thank you. Thank you for seeing me like that. Because, you know, when you do get seen in the fullness of who you are, it hits harder. And I think that's also like such a good lesson for people within here who are listening, is the more you are and the more authentic you can be to your soul's blueprint, when someone does compliment you or when you do something, it has that much more texture to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you know, like it's so much better. So,
yes.
You know, it took, first thing I want to say, there's no levels, right? We're all on different soul paths. I just knew this was my last time on earth and I wasn't going to fuck anything up. Am I allowed to say fuck?
Yes, say whatever you want.
Yes,
absolutely.
I wasn't like, I wanted to just go all in on every single lesson, darkness, like every little bit. I wanted to go to every single edge because I was just determined not to come back to this planet. So, you know, it's life as it does. It has its ups and downs and all of that. And I feel I've always been super connected to source, super connected to my intuition, super interconnected with my knowing and everyone and everything. Like, it's always been there. But then there was a beautiful experience that happened within my life where I was in a 14-year relationship, and it was very compressing and very toxic and very hard to leave. And I was literally just thinking about this, like when I was blow drying my hair, I just had this moment and I was like, wow, I felt genuine gratitude for my ex-husband and all of the hardships that he put me through. Like, we're not on speaking terms, like it's dangerous, like that's where it's at. But, you know, I'm so grateful he gave me that experience so I could walk away and walk this path to find every edge, because if I had have stayed complacent in that, I would not have found the edges, and I would have been doing a disservice to the planet by staying. So he did his job brilliantly, and even though it's not you know, safe to be in his presence it ever again in this lifetime, but the higher guidance was he did his job, and I just felt like this immense gratitude in my body, and I was like,
yes. And I think that is one of the stages of awakening, or a piece of it is like having the gratitude, the change in relationship to the things you've experienced that have felt like trauma or have felt really negative, it is then realizing, oh, or not even realizing, but it is like like you said, this feeling, this embodiment of like, oh, there were so many reasons for that, and I feel so grateful, and I can see how that led me to this. I've had similar experiences where, you know, a major trauma when I was a child, I could almost spiritually bypass, and I could acknowledge with my brain, like, oh, it happened for a reason. It made me the person I am today. And for years thought like that was enough because I could say those words, that it was all good, and it wasn't all good. And it wasn't until I could feel, embody, and feel like, oh, I actually fully like left that baggage, left the bags at the door, took the pieces that were good and can acknowledge what it was, and like have no emotional reaction to it anymore. And know that it, yeah, no emotional charging, and know that it got me to where I am today, which I'm
Really?
so happy about.
And I think we could all find a different piece or a story that can kind of like, you know, we can feel into that for each individual, you know. But I think the biggest thing is, and what I've come to the understanding of awakening, is it's a full circle moment. So before you have like your rock bottom moment, or whatever you want to call it, whatever language you want to put on it, you kind of start at the top of the circle, and then we don't really know why we act out, why we do things, why we're being certain ways, why we're triggered, whatever. And then we kind of go on this like journey of the soul where bad shit starts to happen. And then you're in the depths of hell and you're like screaming. You're like, what this planet? It sucks! Like all of that, right? And then you start to come back up the other side and you get to here again. And what I've learned is it doesn't stop all of the patterns and things from happening. You don't get to a stage of awakening where you're sitting there like the Buddha and you're just like, oh, like nothing bothers me anymore. But you just have this level of awareness of every little like layer and nook and cranny to why you do act out in certain ways. You have more of a choice because you're aware of all of your parts and your pieces. And also too, I think, you know, we do mention the word light, and I have integrated so much light into my body and have moved through a lot of density. And I know I have trained my body to operate at higher frequencies, not better or worse. It just is like, you know, I would go through phases where I'd have like this light upgrade. I would be depressed and couldn't leave the house for like 2 weeks. So I've like stretched my body, and it kind of got to a point where I've leveled out my default at a higher frequency now. So I do carry a lot of light. However, that doesn't mean that I don't go down the road of feeling sad or angry or whatever. Like I will get sad or angry or whatever in that moment. It comes through me like that, and then it goes out straight away. But because of this full circle awakening moment, I have healthy ways that I can express it, but I'm not grabbing onto it and pushing it back down and sinking it into my body. So, because I've worked hard to get to this, you know, and I'm not going to get something else stuck there. No way. You're going to cry and you're going to get that out.
Yes, 100%. What can you give us some examples? Like, what do those you mentioned, like bringing in the light, raising your vibration, raising your frequency? Like, what has that looked like for you?
So it's very alien, to be honest. So I do work with multidimensional beings, and I know a lot of people who can talk to beings. They're really kind of specific in, you know, what beings and what species they are and all of that. Whereas I don't really get caught up in the who, what, when, where, how, you know, of it all.
I resonate with that. Yep.
Yeah, it's just like it's a higher being. But also too, I just want to say one thing before we delve down this road. I believe we all come from this big ball of energetic white light, right? You could call it the sun. Sometimes I literally flip around and I'm like, is the sun,
is that home?
Yeah. I'm like, it, you know, and we don't really know, but I do resonate with a big ball of light, God, all that is, source energy, whatever you want to label it as. And then from there is the different fragments that come down and make up you, me, all my past lives, all my future lives, all the multidimensional beings, all the animals, all the planets, all the alternate universes, like all of that. But angels, guides, whatever. So you can say that you're talking to a guide and all of that, which is true. But at the end of the day, if we like shoved everything back up into the big ball of light, the sun, we're all the same thing. We're all one. So
Yes.
even though I might be experiencing a version of that oneness, talking to a multidimensional being, essentially it's just another part of myself that I'm speaking with.
Ooh, I love that explanation. And I want to get into some more layers of that, but this is not something that you're making up. Like this concept actually, and I think you understand the quantum field and quantum physics to a different degree than I do, but isn't that also what quantum physics kind of states, is that we yeah. Well, I'm in this interesting chapter for me, and you are a huge expander for me, because I also resonate with, like, when people say they're channeling this entity and they give it a specific name or channeling these different things, like, I don't resonate with that. To me, it's just like, I don't care about names. I don't, and I think that how you just explained it's because it's actually all just a part of us. Totally makes sense. But there's a part of me where I have all of this information that I know, which is can be very confusing, especially in the early days of starting to know things, right? Or recognize that you know things. And then my logical brain has started to kick in and like, okay, now I'm trying to make sense of it. I shared that experience with you where you're the one who actually gave me the language for like ground zero, where I went to that place, that ball of light, and like was a particle and gathered that real knowing that like we are all one, there is no separation. Which is a very confusing actually concept, because then you land back down here on Earth and things happen like an election there where everyone's separate, or all of the things going on politically, and you're like, but how are we one when we feel so separate? But quantum physics would say that everything is the same. Everything is like this one particle essentially split into everything that you like can now see with your physical eyes, and actually that nothing that is physical is actually physical. It's like us beings, especially, we are constantly regenerating, like we are constantly recreating ourselves in every second, every tenth of a second. So
how fun.
There is I know that yes, that's like some of these spiritual laws and things that, again, people like you just know, like there is real science to back it up. Which is really kind of wild, and makes it even harder to wrap your head around, because there's so much, there's the Newtonian physics and quantum physics that are like, we live by the law of like what we can see with our eyes, right? And what we can feel.
I forget that people are like that on this planet. That's why sometimes I feel more alien, because I don't really like to read into things or get like, because I'm such a pure channel, and my knowing that comes through is just so innocent, and I don't want to get different like words put in there, because for whatever reason my blueprint and like my astrology, the way that I have been made into this meat suit, I'm very good at articulating things in a way that the everyday Joe Blow person can understand it and hear it. And I think that's part of like my mission, to not get caught up in the terminology and stuff, and just say what I know to be true.
Yes.
And because there is no like blockages here, like I can literally look. Like I was at the pool yesterday, and this young guy in Miami, he's like, yeah, come to a party tomorrow night, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake. Anyway, and then he was like, oh, what do you do? And I looked him dead in the eye. I'm like, I just wanted to fuck with him. I was like, I'm an oracle and I talk to aliens. Like, and he's like, I kind of believe you. And I'm like, well, you should. I'm like, I'm not fucking with you. And for whatever reason, people believe me, because I'm not lying.
Yes. Yeah. But to have that clarity, like, have you had, because I think again, going back to my own experience, like there's a battle with the clarity, right? Because have lived this life very grounded in, I have a husband who's like very grounded and very earthly. I am a CEO of a business. I've like feel, and that's part of the breaking point, right? Feel like I've been jammed into this like box of reality. But how have you always just been clear, or did you have to work to then like trust that knowing and allow that clarity?
So I've always been clear, but when I was in that relationship, I was clouded for a reason. And I think I needed that extreme contrast in order to experience the other end and understand what
Yeah.
the clarity and everything was. So I I I have been very clear other than that. But what was the biggest thing for me, and I think this is a portion that a lot of people forget to talk about when it comes to listening to your intuition, the way I interpret energy and the language of energy would be different to how you interpret the language of the energy and somebody else, right? So it's not like it's written in a book somewhere where it's like, when it comes and you feel it like here in your rib, that means
Mm-hmm.
that it's
Mm-hmm.
true, right? But it's an individual experience that you have to learn and only can learn over time. So I think because once I kind of got out and I was determined, like, no one's ever going to put me in a box again, no one's going to control me, like, and then that also turned into a prison, but that's like another story because then I was like,
Mm.
so like no one, like I couldn't
Yes.
connect. So that was a
Yeah.
cool human experience. I love when human things happen. I'm like, woo! But the learning was in the writing down my notes every day and noticing what was coming up in my body and journaling and recording. And I've recorded every meditation, every thought in my brain since 2017 in my phone notes. It's
Wow.
all there. So over
Wow.
time, you start to see patterns and you start to see different data and things, and you develop your own language to your intuition, and that can only be done as an individual thing.
Yes. Yeah, I love that description. And I think that's a really important message to get out because everyone is looking for the, you know, find your intuition in 3 months, like join the
Formula.
6 month program. Like, yeah, everyone's looking for the formula. And the more that I'm into it too, I just keep saying, like, there's no formula I can give any, like, I want to help people, but I can't, there's no step-by-step guide to like, feeling like you're on the path of awakening, to trusting your intuition, to connecting to what you do, what I do, anyone can do. I truly believe like it's just this like the willingness to connect and then the willingness to listen and get clear, right? And trust. But what was the moment that you were like, it clicked and you were like, oh, I'm an oracle. And also I want to share this power and this experience with people.
Yeah, so there's two parts to that. The first one was I knew earlier, like people always just said to me, you just say the right thing. Like it's like
Mm,
you just know, you get to the brunt of whatever it is. And I was
yes.
like, oh, so I kind of knew that I had that. And then once I got away, like in Australia, I owned a meditation app. I owned two meditation apps. So I kind of did the boss bitch thing for a while and I was all
Mm-hmm.
grinding this and that and that and blah, 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 and now I can't be fucked, right? So now I'm like, I I just can't. I just don't wanna I just wanna lay on by the pool.
Dude, yes, I
I don't
understand.
want to do it. I don't want to do it anymore. Anyways, so I did that, and then once that chapter closed, I had a lot of space and I had a lot of time. And I was like, I have had a party trick of, reading tarot cards since I
Mhm.
worked for a big beauty brand in my early 20s. Everyone's like, did you bring your tarot cards? Like, everyone just knew I was that girl. So it
Yeah.
was just kind of, this is what I actually say to people, and this might help some people as well. Like, if you have like an intuitive gift, if you're playing with, whether it's astrology or whatever tool it is that helps you with your divine guidance, and if you have something that you really love to do, practice with your friends, practice with your family, become the person who they just know that who's this weird bitch who's coming into the office with her cards.
Yes.
It's me. So
And they actually all love
And they
it.
love it,
Yeah.
even if, like, you know, and then they might be a bit wary, but if you kind of lead the charge, then they start to feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's normal. And then if you do something with your business further down the track and you just all of a sudden come out and you say, oh, I'm doing this, it's not going to be weird.
No big
Yeah,
deal.
so
Yeah,
like
no
me
big deal.
saying I was
Mm-hmm.
an oracle, I had to get over the fact that like I hated the term oracle. I didn't want to be defined by anything either. So I had to put my ego aside to be like, just fucking call it an oracle and get over it. Like, and I was like,
Yes.
all right, and now I can say it. And like, because it's your own attachment to the words that you think people are going to judge or whatever. Like, you know,
Yes.
it just is. And if your perception of me saying what an oracle is, if you're going to go and run with it, then go run with it. I don't care. It's not my problem, you know?
Yeah. 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 I love that because I think too, once you're tapped in and you have this information, you have this knowing, you have this different way of orienting and understanding the world, it then is hard to make sense of some of the things like we'll just call it on the human field and the human dimension where you're like, okay, but I have to put a name to this. Otherwise, like, how are people going to relate to it and understand what it is?
You have to play. And that's okay. That's the awareness. Like you mentioned the sentence before around, you know, the path to expanding. The being on the path is the expansion.
Yes. And I want to tap into something that you mentioned too, that you started with Oracle cards, or like you started to tap into whatever tool it is that you are using, like use that and keep going with it. And that's something that I've talked about a few times is like, you know, I've said like people who love tarot, for example, and I use tarot and really like it, but they're always like the cards say this, the cards say that. It's like, it's not the cards, you know, the cards are not the magic. Like you and your interaction with the quantum field in the universe, that's the magic. The cards, I have my couple decks of tarot cards. I bought that shit off of Amazon. You know what I mean? Like nothing that's coming from Amazon is magical.
It's just another way to read energy.
Yes, but it helps. I like allowing people or like giving people the permission to start with something like that, or even the Akashic records, you know, or, you know, whatever it is, whatever the modality is, because that helps to, it kind of like appeases the brain, right? It appeases our mind, and it's like, okay, you can start to put the power on something else until there's that undeniable moment where you're like, oh shit, this is me, or this is me and my connection. You know, it's not the cards.
Yes. And that's how, like, even in when I first started, like, you know, charging for sessions, I would start off with the cards just because it felt comfortable to me, you know. But I knew the cards weren't doing shit, but I was just like, you know, it just was a safe point, and that's okay. Like, and you know, we don't have to get to again. There's no levels. Like, it's just knowing where you're at. Just having full acceptance of that, you know, full acceptance. Like that's the most spiritual, awakened thing that you can do, you know, and not having any expectations on how you think you should be operating in any field, whether it's the way you read, the way you share your gifts with the world, the way you show up. Like, you know, if you are 100%, even in the ugliest bits, I think that's all you can be.
Yes. And so once you've conquered handling and dealing with your own expectations, how do you deal with other people's expectations? Because people are paying you. They're coming to you for a session. Clearly, they're coming with some form of expectation. How has that experience been for you?
Yeah. So I find it interesting when I talk to each individual, I speak in their language, and I speak in a way, like sometimes I speak and I don't even sound like me, and then sometimes I speak and I do sound like me, but with like a little bit of them in it. So it's like the energy that gets opened up to be read is their own body and their own signature anyway. And this is what I just say that I am. I've become an expert at translating the language of energy. So I always speak in a way where it hits for them, and there is no, like, they never know kind of what to expect, but it always just serves what is necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
that makes
giving
sense.
tangible tools is another thing as well, right? Because, but that just comes through in a session. Like sometimes, you might say all this like profound oracle wisdom shit, and then they're just like, okay, cool, great, but what do I do with that? And then there needs to be
Yeah.
smaller steps that are broken down, of how you like work to achieve that. And you know
Yes.
what? I think the biggest thing for everyone in the world right now, you just have to slow down the momentum. Like to any problem to ever exist, rinse and repeat this to every single problem. You just have to slow down the momentum. So I see everything as energetics and energy. And if you're giving your attention to something, it's just creating an energetic charge where it's like this, right? And if you don't like it, you need to take your energy away from it and just do something completely different. Slow down the momentum here so then other things can start to naturally magnetize towards your experience, but also so you can see clearly of how to handle that. But if you keep going at it head first, it's like literally science. Like it's not going to work.
Can you give like an easy example of that for someone to follow?
Yeah. So a lot of people, like an example would be, um, so say money.
Perfect.
A lot of people, I'm like, what's gonna hit everyone? Money. And everyone, okay, so we've been, oh, here we go, there's so many layers to this. Strap in. So
Yes.
basically, the way, okay, so first of all, the first thing I need to say is the way the planet has been in the past, we'll call it Pluto in Capricorn, but even I'm
Yeah.
going to go back like since the Roman Empire, right? Since all of these systems and things have been put in place, it's been very masculine,
Yeah.
and very, like that, put whatever word.
Very like physical.
Yes, physical and rigid and structured and blah, blah, blah. Brilliant, fantastic. We got the world to where it needs to be right now.
Hmm.
However, there is a lot of light and energy that is being integrated on the planet right now, which you can see through the Schumann resonance, solar flares, like whatever it is, there's a lot of light that's being integrated on the planet. And as that happens, the frequency of planet Earth is getting higher and faster, and not necessarily better or worse. It's just going higher
Hmm.
and faster, the frequency of the planet. So when something gets higher and faster, anything that was built from the foundation in the past in this like lower, denser frequency, it's not being able to hack it anymore. So it's starting to crumble and it's starting to fall down. And this is where we're starting to see all of these systems and everything, they're not upholding anymore. We need a little bit of a
Yeah.
shift. So from the masculine way of doing things, this higher, faster frequency into the upper chakras is more a feminine way
Yes.
of doing things, right? So, then this ties it back to the concept of money. We have been operating subconsciously for generations within our families that we have to grind, go,
Hmm.
strive, achieve, have money in the bank, solid that we can see there, and if we don't, we're failing and we're not safe and blah, blah, blah. Like all these stories that are just ridiculous, but that's starting to crumble. So a lot of people are in this in-between stage with money right now because they're like, oh, it doesn't feel right to like go out and push and pull. And that's all the old momentum that's like going
Yeah.
into like the way we need to do business. But we're in this weird in-between stage because we don't really know what it looks like to build a business in a higher frequency yet. So this is why we have to go back to the feminine. The feminine is what is going to lead to like the wholeness and being able to use both. But the feminine needs to intuitively lead
Yes.
of how to do that. So when it comes to money, you literally it's going against everything in our bones. Just take our hands off the wheel and step back and be like, all right, I just won't do anything for a bit. And you start to
Yes.
panic because you're like, oh my God, how am I going to pay this? What am I going to do here? Blah, 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 blah. But the momentum needs to slow down. So then you can actually create some space for these new ideas to drop in,
Yes.
for these new ways to emerge through you, whether they're dropping in from there or they're coming up from in here. But either way, you need to create space. And if you keep going and trying to make money in a system that isn't going to exist anymore
Yeah.
in 10, 20 years, then you're definitely going to be in trouble. So you may as well start to
Yes.
move back now.
Yeah, you're so dead on, and I've been experiencing that for myself, and it is a little bit disorienting because we've been in this way of doing things for so long. But what I've understood from my experience is what it feels like is like it's really the control that we're giving up, and it's like we've been trained on how to do. We know how to do, we know how to execute. We can do it with our eyes closed, right? So by what your language of like not doing anything, what that's looked like for me is like I'm just not pushing and striving and trying to control and manipulate every circumstance. I'm believing that is what is for me finds me, what is meant for my business will find it. And in that way I'm like sitting back, but still stuff is coming, stuff is falling into my lap, I'm following through on it, the day-to-day stuff I do, but the doing has a whole different energy because it's like you already know how to do. And again, you can do that with your eyes closed. It is this like extra layer of like the controlling of it that is the burden, the exhaustion, the thing that's no longer working.
And the intention behind the doing, like when you're doing from a place of lack and striving because you're like, fear, then that's what it's rooted in, whereas if you're doing, like, for example, I still have to do human things, and it's like maybe I have to sit down and go to my emails for like half an hour, and it's like even though I don't really want to do it, I'm not doing it from a place of I need to do this because if I don't do it, like my whole life's gonna fall apart,
right?
I'm very extreme in the sense of I have gone down to the wire of like money so many times, and it always works out. And like I live out of 2 suitcases. I have no things. If my intuition tells me to go somewhere, I go somewhere. If my intuition is like, it always just works out. And I think it's reframing your idea of abundance as well, because a lot of us think that abundance needs to be like money stacked in the bank, but like banks are going to shut down as well at one point in the future. So it's like we need to just reframe the whole idea around what abundance looks like as well. It might be the fact that you go to the coffee shop and the person in front of you buys a coffee for you that day. Like that's abundance. Like I think we can start recognizing abundance in different ways to start to attract more of it in as well.
Yes, I love that. And it sounds like for you, and I think a lot of people, that word like freedom really feels like their soul's calling, and like the ability for you to be so free and move around as you want. Like that feels really abundant. That feels incredible. Like who cares how much money is in the bank when you like have the ability to live that lifestyle and do as you want.
Yes. And it's funny. So when I was having this, I must have just been thinking all the thoughts when I was blow drying my hair before. But
it happens.
Yeah, and I was like, but I had that thought. I was like, this is true freedom. Like, not a single thing is holding me back. And and I always used to say on the back end of that, I know I'm a very extreme case, which I am, but everybody truly does have a choice. And actually, do you know what came on? You know the song Stacey Orico, There's Got to Be More to Life?
Yes.
There's got to be more to life. Yeah. I was like, oh my God. I had this vision of me driving in like my little red car when I was like 22 in my hometown. And I was like, I remember singing it and I was like, there's got to be, like, I was genuinely like, yes, Stacey, there has to be more to this life. I was like, I agree with you. There has to be. And then I just like was so proud of myself that I found it. Like I found it. And then I was like, people can do this. They think these ideas around like money holding you back or this holding you back or you've got to go here and blah, 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 blah. Like, yes, they are things to consider, but I don't think people realize how easy it is to actually live?
Mm, mm. I don't think people even understand
Yeah.
what that means,
Mm.
to be honest. And I don't think you start to understand it until you get a taste of it. Because I, very similarly have started to get a taste
Yeah.
of what it means to live and what abundance actually means for me. And it's funny that you used that language, like there has to be more to life. That I've had that moment so many times in my life and that's what's kind of like continued to push me down my spiritual path, is like, there's got to be more. Like, come on. Like, there has to be more than this. Like, what is all of this for? And when you taste freedom, flow, peace, who gives a shit about all the other stuff? Like, that is living. That is living. It is unbelievable. And I've just, like, this is within the past few weeks that I've started to feel this way. I'm like, all the other striving things, like stress about the money in the bank or needing the physical things, like, that just isn't, like, it doesn't come up really anymore. Of course, in some moments, 'cause I'm still human too, but when you are in flow, like, you have just such an appreciation for living, for the ability to be on this planet, the beauty of everything, the hug from your husband, your kid, your friends, like the ability to pick up the phone and call your friend, like everything feels like so incredible. And like, that is it. That's it.
And that's what we're here for. Like, truly. And even like you and me experiencing these moments of freedom, like true freedom and everything. If we go back to the big circle thing that I said at the beginning, you go back here, of course, you're still going to have moments where you drop into doubt or you drop into, should I be somewhere else or whatever it is, right? But it's having full acceptance of those moments and knowing they're going to come, because we're human and we came here to experience the contrast and all of it. But as long as you just, I think the biggest thing is not attaching stories to it, and then not always trying to grab onto whatever emotion it is and then trying to fix it straight away. Like, just being in it and experiencing it, then it kind of goes through your system a lot quicker than if you were trying to fix or control the emotion in any way. It's just knowing that like, this is it. This is living. This is the bittersweet, disgusting, awesome experience of living on this planet,
Yes. Yeah. The ability to be an observer. And I know this will resonate with you. Like, I think once you are able to kind of rise above the layer of emotions and observe, like, you also see there's a million truths happening at the same time. And like, things that feel opposite are both true at the same, and a lot of things that feel opposite are both true at the same time. And that's a really interesting experience too. And like you said, like, the human pieces still come up, but it's just like, it's much shorter and you're more of an observer of them than so attached and so reactive. And I want to lead that into something that you said earlier about it being your last lifetime on this planet, and like your relationship to that, or your past relationship to that, because that's, again, something I resonate with. Like, I feel very much that I know that it's my last lifetime. And for a while, the first time I heard that, or like got it verified by someone outside of me, it was this moment of like relief and thank God. And then when I visited ground zero, we'll call it, I came back with a very different feeling and a different relationship to it being my last lifetime. And I'm still processing it. And it was like almost a little bit of a sadness of like, okay, the place of creation that maybe we are going, maybe that's the next step, maybe it's not, I don't know. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on our journey. But like, I won't know what a hug feels like. I won't know what my daughter's kiss feels like. Like, it had this immediate appreciation for the bad, because it was like, just good or just being was great, but it didn't have like it wasn't exciting, or didn't have like, it just was like, okay, if that's where we're going, I get it, and that's great, and that's where we come from, but like, damn, there's a lot of shit going on here on Earth that I should actually like really appreciate and really make the most of. And I'm curious, like, your thoughts in relationship to that.
Absolutely. But that's what makes us human, having the awareness and the understanding that we could feel
Mm,
nostalgia, but we won't be in a place where nostalgia exists then. So we're having nostalgia for something that we're not going to feel in the human experience because we have the ability to understand it, which makes being human so great, right? Like to be
yeah.
able to try and, like it's the understanding of things is what the understanding of emotions is what makes us human.
Mm,
So having moments like that where you get to experience gratitude again and the feeling of, oh, I'm not going to miss out on these moments or whatever, because you know
yeah.
that when we get to that place we're operating at a higher, faster frequency. So it's not the lower density ones aren't there. And it's, again, not better or worse. It's just like a different measurement. We just don't experience the full range of emotions, but we're getting closer and closer to love. So we still get to experience love
Mm,
and we still get to experience the wholeness of all that is, but we're just probably more like the Buddha, I guess, in
right.
a big clump of
Right.
energy or however it's going to be.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think there's something in between that, this like physical human experience? Are there different physical experiences? Like what's the journey? Like you and I both feel it's our last lifetime.
On this
Where
planet.
where do we get to
Yeah.
yeah, where do we get to
So
go
I've
after
seen my
this?
next life and it looks like
Ooh.
pink planet. And it's funny like that we're talking about nostalgia because they were like, we know you're so excited to get to the next one, and they're like, we're going to show you, then you're going to miss it, you're going to miss this one. And I'm like, I don't get to experience missing in that life, and they're like, we're going to make you just for one. So I was sitting like by this river, it was like pink whatever, and I think I shed like one single tear, but I didn't feel any nostalgia with the tear, but I knew the tear represented a missing of something that I didn't know that I
Hmm.
missed.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
if we feel into it in here, people who feel like we're from another planet, we probably have that feeling as well of like we miss something, but we don't know what we miss. And sometimes we feel like we're a little bit out of place here. So maybe it's just the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I, I,
Yeah.
I believe it's my last time on planet Earth,
Yeah.
because, and I feel like there will be, you know, other multidimensional experiences that I'm more than happy to have, but Earth tapped out, done.
You're done.
But don't get me wrong, I love being a human, right? I went so far down, like over the years, like the spiritual road and the playing in the different realms mode, that I had to really teach myself how to be a human again, because I was like, and people do
Yes.
go too far there sometimes and it can turn into psychosis. And so
Yeah.
when I would have these big light upgrades in my body and I'd be just knocked out, I would really have to like come back and be like, no, Molly, you're here. I actually had one big one in New York just recently, like maybe 3 months ago. And, it'll be like in meditation and I'll have like a visitation of a being or whatever. And they took me to the void. And then it was like my mind couldn't get out of the void for about 24 hours. And because I have the awareness and understanding of what was happening, like I knew what I needed to do to kind of hold myself in a place until I was like snapped back. But for a bit
Yes.
there, it was a bit touch
Yes.
and go. I was like, are we? I
Yeah.
was like, what the fuck, guys? Like,
No, I get that. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons my daughter like came to the planet. She was a happy surprise, unplanned, but it's such a like before she came here, I was in the mindset of like, cool, I can go. I'm good to go at any time. Like I want to go home. This is like a little too hard, not in a scary way, but just like take me back to my home. And her being here is like a very grounding in a beautiful way, like allows me to kind of ground back into the human experience and appreciate it, like really, really appreciate it. And certainly there's moments that I don't, but yeah, it's something that I'm really grateful for, and I think she's like meant to be, holding my hand on my own
Makes it
spiritual
fun,
journey.
and I love how kids remind you it's not that serious, and that's one of my
Yes.
biggest messages as well. Like it's not that serious. Like it's really not. Like yes, there's big missions and we have to live in our authenticity and we can help people and blah 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 and do all this, but as long as it's coming from like an inspired place, like within you, and you're
Mm-hmm.
not doing it because you think that that's what you need to do in order to like win on this planet, it's like this is what I always say, like you just being you, regardless of whether you had a podcast or whether you were, talking on stages or whatever, you just being you within your community is doing enough for the planet,
Yes.
frequency wise, than anything else, but it's up to you how you want to create and play within it. And, that's a lot of people are like, what's my purpose? What do I do? And I'm like, your purpose is you. You,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
you are the purpose. And then how you want to share your blueprint, skill set, words, stories, whatever, like fill in the gaps there. Like it's up to you. Like I always say there's
Mm-hmm.
no one sitting at the end of your life with a clipboard being like, well, you were meant to say yes to this job that you said no to back in 1873 and you've lost.
Yeah.
It's not like you
Yeah.
just have to be you.
The purpose question is so interesting because I think everyone wants that answer, right? But I think like if we weren't, because we're operating so out of alignment, we feel this bigger calling or we feel like there has to be more, but it's like you're skipping 100 steps to try and, if you're so out of alignment, to try and get to like what's my purpose. And everyone just thinks like knowing their purpose solves all the steps in between. And it's just like, no, like you said, it's not that serious. It's actually not that complicated. Like, can you just be? Can you just be? Yeah.
And maybe if we replace the word purpose, like what's our purpose? It's more like you. Like how well do you know you instead of knowing your purpose?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think,
Yeah, I love that.
turning it back onto here, because then from there you get to choose. Like, I know myself pretty well. I know I'm pretty good at talking. I know I'm pretty good at writing. Maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try that. And I enjoy doing it. It doesn't feel like a chore. So that's kind of cool. Otherwise, if I don't feel like talking on microphones or Instagram for a while, I just talk to every single person on the street and like they're like, shut the fuck up. Like last night I went out to dinner with this guy and I forget that I'm annoying. Like, and I was just like, and like, talking to the waiter, I'm like, what are your kids' names? And like the guy was just sitting there like,
I love that though. That is living, like interacting with people, bringing your light to people, like just being yourself and not worrying about what is this person across the table thinking. Like,
I
because, like,
love, I love not caring what people think now. And it takes a while to get there. Like it really does because of the society that we've been born into,
mm-hmm.
like the systems, the old momentum of like seeking validation outside of ourselves and even like, within our families, they had different ways of, seeking validation that gets dropped down. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just, when you're not doing anything intentionally to hurt anyone, yeah, that's all you really
Yeah.
need to know. Like, and then, having the awareness and the self-awareness, if someone comes to you and says this hurt me, being like, okay, cool, well, how can I be better and how can I learn from this? And but I just don't think people really care that much. And that when I realized that, I was like,
Yes.
I just
Yes.
don't care. Like I don't care. And I feel like I'm wasting time when I can't fake it anymore. I just can't fake it. Like I have to just be me now.
The time and the energy too. The energy it takes to like constantly be assessing like how can I be in this moment? How can I adjust to
Right.
myself? What are people thinking?
And I get that people have to wear certain masks and jackets. Like, say if you have a certain job and you have to, be a certain way, like if you're a flight attendant, I wouldn't be able to. No, I'd still find a way. Like, I'd be like, "What's up, everyone? The aliens are. Let's all have a moment, and let's all set an intention. White line around the flag."
I would love to be on that
I
flight.
would too. Like, wouldn't you feel much safer knowing that someone put white light around the airplane before you left? I reckon.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
well, and I think even in those moments of authenticity, even if people don't resonate with the exact actions or words, like the authenticity, the energy of authenticity, like that cannot miss them. And that gives, whether they know it or not, it gives people permission. And I'm sure that you've experienced this in your life with, any fears you had around being authentic. I'm sure it's only uplifted everyone around you.
It makes me so happy because then it gives other people a permission slip to be it as well.
Yes.
And, one of the biggest purpose-driven things on this planet for humans in general, not individual purpose, is connection and community. And I know how easy it is to stay in your own little bubble and not connect with people and not talk to people at the coffee table beside you or whatever. But like, when you be a little bit open like that and honest like that, it automatically gives the person in front of you that permission slip to like soften a little bit, and then it shifts their frequency, and then they go home, and then everything around them within their community starts to shift a bit. Like, it's just, it makes no sense to me why anyone would not want to be anything but themselves.
Yeah. I agree. And like, that is living also, like making like your excitement or joy or gratitude for every scenario.
I know.
You're going to the coffee shop, you're excited, like that energy. It's not that you're thinking about it, but that energy just like bounces off of you, and of course you're gonna, if you're in that energy, of course you're gonna say hi to people. You're gonna ask the barista how they're doing. I was at the DMV for 3 hours the other day and was looking around and was like so heartwarmed by seeing people who are all, people are standing in line next to strangers, and you're standing there for hours, and seeing people as they're leaving, like saying goodbye to the stranger that they were standing in line next to, or, like that was like, this is what life is all about. Like, there's 100 of us in here standing in line. Like, why not make friends next to the person in line? Like, or, say something that can make their day, or it was a cool experience. Cool. It's like, the DMV doesn't have to suck.
Nothing does. That is the thing. Like, we as humans, our default based on our conditionings, societal conditionings, like movies, families, all of that, we think that some big thing is going to come along, some big manifestation is going to come along, and that's going to like put the Band-Aid over every single void you have within your body. And it's not. Like, it really, I hate saying this, but it really is the little things. It is. And, every day, and I think this what really helps with my spirit, because I really do make the most out of the most mundane moments, right? Like, even me getting up in the morning, like, there's a song from my bed to the bathroom. Like, there
I love that.
Song, yes. Right. And I'll just hit shuffle and be like, what's the vibe today? And then like, it was like My Chemical Romance, and I was like, and I just dance my way to the bathroom and I think bringing those, all your senses into these little mundane moments, like this sensual energy of, just being in the moment and really enjoying the smell, the taste, the touch of just the most boring things. That's what bleeds life and purpose and meaning into things. Like, that's what it is. And I think we're all searching for this big thing to come along, but I'm like, it's not.
It's not big. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's these small things that just add to the moments. Yeah,
I love that. And as you were talking, your your face is shifting into a little bit more of like an an alien like figure.
Cool.
So this might be the time to talk about the aliens.
Let's talk about
If
alien.
you're up for
What do
it.
I look
Okay.
like?
You like a little bit of like a shimmery like silver grayish to you.
Mm.
And like your cheekbones kind of came up even more and your head kind of thinned a little bit. Like
It's
beautiful,
very
beautiful.
gray. I love that. People are scared of the gray, but they're fine.
Yes. Okay. So I want to get to that because I'm like confused about some of these labels that are on things. And one thing before we get into the aliens, I want to ask you your thoughts on this because I see some things on Instagram and I just happen to follow someone because I know them from like a different lifetime essentially on Instagram that talks a lot about like evil spirits and her work is like severing off like evil spirits that are leeching your energy and things like that I am on one. It doesn't resonate with me. I don't experience that. Like I haven't in my my work, whatever you want to call it, I have not experienced evil spirits or leeching energy or much negativity really other than like the human negativity, right? But in the energetic field, I haven't really experienced that. And so she'll say stuff and she's made a whole career out of it, like cutting cords for people, or not even cords, like it's like psychic surgeries and things like that. I don't go in depth, so I might not be using the most perfect language, but I just want to get your perspective on that world.
Okay. So my current beliefs, and it's backed with a lot of my own data and what I have seen, you create your own reality. And if we go back to the light of everything that is, I've been just laying in the sun before and like, I'll catch a glimmer of the light and I see the full prism of the rainbow in my eye and I'm like, oh, that's what we all are, right? And so whatever you perceive on the inside, like that's your reality. Whatever you're going to focus on, that's your reality. And a lot of people get so wound up about this, but I do believe it to be true, even the bad stuff, right? So when it comes to like evil spirits and stuff like that, I believe you create your reality in any dimension. Any dimension.
Yes.
So I've had people who have come to me with sleep paralysis, or they're like, there's something in my room, blah blah blah. I never look at something at being outside of them. I'm like, all right, well, let's look at what you're not addressing within yourself. And that is how we've worked through it, right? So yes, the way our minds perceive this part of ourself might be in the form of something that appears to be outside of us, which is very much the case in this dimension as well, right? Where this is where it gets a little bit confusing because it's like we're all one, blah blah blah, and I feel like I can say this because people are like, well, what about like murderers and stuff like that? That's maybe got a different layer to it, but also we don't understand that soul's blueprint and what they decided to sign up for on this planet, right? So, and there might have been a karmic thing that was like laced in there from other lives, like we don't know. However, like say for example my marriage, like it was quite abusive, but I didn't deserve that in the human realm of it, but a part of me did choose this and needed to see this one way or another for my soul evolution. So I still believe I put myself in that situation, and I'm not a victim, but I also can see from the reality of, yes, it was wrong within here. That's why I have boundaries now. And that's why, it's all there. But I can understand the truth of it is I create my reality.
Yeah.
So when it comes to evil spirits, as I said, I believe it's something from within you. When it comes to cutting cords, I do believe you can have cords. Like if you have sex with people, if you're spending a lot of time with people, I believe the cords can come into your energetic field and there is a mix. So I do believe in removing the cords. I do believe in clearing your energetic field every day. I
Yes.
believe, I don't believe it's evil spirits, but I believe you might just get a little bit of their collateral damage of their own energies that they haven't cleaned, that might, weigh a little bit heavily on your field. But yeah, I really believe that if you look at every single dark part of yourself, and I've gone to the depths. I had a mentor once. This was years ago. She used to make me, because I was like a recovering people pleaser,
Mhm.
and she used to make me meditate on like killing people. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And she's like, you need to do it. And I'm like, why? And she's like, because your human isn't going to do it. But I want to show your brain and your psyche that you do have the ability to go there, right? And then when
Mm.
I snap back into
Mhm.
this, then all of a sudden saying no to someone became so much easier because I've stretched
Yeah.
my mind knowing that I could do a lot worse than that if I wanted to.
You're like, I could say no or I could kill you. Which would you?
Say no, or I could just beat you over the head with this baseball bat right now. So let's just say no, right?
That.
Yeah, but the point is
Yes.
allowing your brain to go there. And I love when I get like something comes up in a mirror. Like it's almost so fun for me now to get up in the morning and be like, what's my reality look like today? And then I go outside and I notice like what some of the patterns are. What am I seeing? Like sometimes I'll see couples. I'm like, what? I'm in a love mood? Gross. And then like sometimes sometimes I'll like see, everyone's grumpy. I'm like, oh, I was grumpy yesterday. Like that makes sense. So it's like I'm watching a movie every day of like what my soul is like projecting out, and I don't
Yes.
I'm not attached to it. I just see it and I'm like, oh, that's what I'm putting out. Right,
Yes, yes, that's very interesting. What do you, I think something you touched on, clearing the energy field. I think people don't
Oh yeah.
realize how important that is. That has been a game changer for me. And, I think you could explain it better, but we do, our energies mesh together. We pick up people's energy. I feel it so much like being here in LA, if I'm out and about, if I go to an event, like, I mean, I think people can relate. Like, you go to an event or concert, anything where you're around a lot of people, you feel a different kind of way after. So, can you tell us how do you talk about any part of that, and then also tell us how you clear your
Yeah.
energy?
So I'm big on this. This has been a message I've been talking about for years. I wrote a book on it. It's very, the way I describe it is we all have our aura, and then the way I see it with my eyes is we have almost like a dome over the top of the aura that maybe is like 10 meters, or what do you guys call it, yards that way, and then that way and that way, and it's like this big dome that sits over our aura, and I call that the field. And within that field is like everything that is made up of you. So when I go outside of a morning, like what I just said, my reflective field is based on like whatever is happening, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm seeing within my field, right? So sometimes if I've like spent a lot of time with someone and I go outside and my field is fielding, I'm like, is this actually mine, or is it, have I kind of
Mm-hmm.
like meshed a little bit with somebody else? So understanding that, I
Yeah.
then, I think the easiest thing to do is every night before you go to bed, have a shower and wash off all the energy from the day that doesn't belong to you. And I like do it around my aura, just super quick. And I say, any energy that doesn't belong to me, go down the drain. I never go to bed with a dirty aura, ever. Because
Yes.
then my dreams will
Yes.
be more whack as
Oh, yes.
well. Also too, just imagining white light just coming through your body in the shape of a torus field to just clean it out. And if
Yeah.
you work in an office, or if you're in like you're at a concert or whatever, you can put a bubble of white light around you, but I don't really believe it's about protecting. I believe it's about cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I do. I do a clearing every night as well before bed. And if I'm out in the world, like I'll do, and a lot of times I'll forget too, and then I'll be like driving home and I'll be like, oh, why do I feel this? Why do I feel off? A lot of times I'll feel it in my body, like my shoulders feel heavy or
Yeah.
my jaw like clenched more, and then I'm like, oh, do clear the energy. And literally, like I do a visualization where I see like two different size nets dropping through and like kind of like pulling the energy out in a way, and then I fill with like, yeah, because you can do it in like 5 seconds, and literally physically feel the difference every time.
And
And
that
it has,
that comes down to like the way you do it and the way I do it and anyone else who's listening, like you'll find your own groove. Like you don't have to follow exactly like what we're saying.
yes.
Like you can find something that really does work for you and like lean into it. You might be like, oh, it feels like maybe I want to just put music on and dance. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
field.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
so many different ways to do it.
I think with so much of this stuff, it really is the intention and the willingness, right? And then like you find your own process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay. I want to talk about light language and
Okay,
aliens.
cool.
So you lead, like which one comes first?
So let's just say, okay, so multidimensional beings, right? And if everything on this planet can be measured by vibrational frequency, this is the radio station of the frequency that we're on right now. This is the 3D reality. This is the reality, the universe that we're experiencing right now. And as you start to integrate more light into your body, you can start to like tune into different frequencies, like a different
Mm-hmm.
radio station to experience different realities. So I, since 2017, have been experiencing these different realities and collected a lot of data, had a lot of interactions with different beings. I feel like my first ever experience was actually when I was really quite young. And I remember I was at my auntie and uncle's house. They lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere. There was like it was pitch black, no houses for days. Like I was in the middle of nowhere, right? Like going there now, I'd probably be scared, but I used to love it at the time. And I remember in the middle of the night, I woke up and there was an energy orb, like a light, and it was like going across the room like this. And I remember it clear as day. And it just got faster and 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 faster. And then it went in me. And I screamed.
Oh my
I was like,
God. Yes.
and then I remember my auntie like came running in and I'm like, how do I explain it? I'm like, this big light just went in me. And she's like, I think you were dreaming. I'm like, no, it was real. And anyways, now that I've collected data and understanding, I feel like that was like my first, like something dropped in of,
Mm-hmm.
we can talk to her or I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
feels like me and my people, and I'm just serving a mission to help humanity
Mm,
in a certain way, evolve, right? And again, we all come from the same thing, but there's different like layers and fractals of because from what my understanding is, the multidimensional beings slash aliens, they just want balance on planet Earth. Because when there's
okay.
balance within this dimension, it trickles out into all the other dimensions, and the balance was just starting to be a little bit off. So it's like just neutralizing any energies that don't belong. Anything based in fear, greed,
Mm,
power, all of that. Like they're trying to bring back a harmony, is what it feels like. And so yeah, over the years, like I've done a lot of astral traveling. I've been put in places I know I probably shouldn't be. I but
ooh.
I've written books on this. I've written TV shows on this. So I feel like maybe one day the stories will come out. But like,
Yes.
I just know I get put in places to alchemize the space. And because I've got my frequency to a certain level, I have more access in this multidimensional universe to go to different
Yep.
places that maybe others can't. And again, it's not better or worse. It's just my mission's different to others, you know?
Yeah, and your general sense is like, hey, these beings are a positive force. They're
Yeah,
helpful. They're teaching us. When you interact with them, they're teaching
yeah.
or they're helping.
And don't get me wrong, I've seen darker ones, but I'm not scared because I'm not scared of any dark part of myself. Like I've been eyeball
Right.
to eyeball
Right.
with things before. I'm like, you want to fucking go? Like, let's go. I'm like, I might look like a fairy, but I will eat you up. And then they're like, oh, because light always wins. Always.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
And I feel
Yes.
like,
Yes.
when you realize that you have that much power and that much control, you don't have to be scared.
Yeah. 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 And it all does come back to like you want to feel like you're in alignment. You want to feel like you're living your purpose. You want to communicate with aliens. Like you need to know your power,
Yeah.
right?
And you
And be
have
in
to
your power.
know you as a human and you have to love her
Hmm.
first and
Hmm.
foremost. Because
Hmm.
then all you're doing is trying to escape to go to a different reality to try and get a hit to fill a void because it's so fun to live in a
Right.
different world. When we're here,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
what matters, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe for a while there, me going on that journey through all the astral traveling and aliens and all of that, like maybe that was part of the circle and part of the process
Mm.
understanding. So now that I'm back here, like I don't want to go there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy here. I want to be here in the present. But now I've got like I call it the doorbell. So there's a spot on my leg that tingles in a certain space, and that's when I know that I need to go and like go up to the ship or whatever.
Wow.
I know. So they'll do it in the most annoying spots. Like I'll get like this tingle in my leg. I'm like, for fuck's sake. I'm like, right now, I'm watching Housewives of Beverly Hills, and
They're like, this is you are out of balance.
yeah, I'm
Stop
I'm
watching.
watching this.
Stop watching
Yeah,
Bravo.
I'm like, but it's so boring. And then so I'll be like, pause, Kyle's having a breakdown. And then I'll like, go into meditation and and then, they'll whatever needs to be said. Or it's like a little cleanup of my energetic body or an
Mhm.
upgrade or whatever it is.
Is that where most of your work or your experiences are happening? You just put yourself into meditation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's more just like maintenance now because I'm such a clear channel. Like I get whatever I need. Like I don't even think. I don't think. Whatever comes out of my mouth is coming from here. Like I don't
Yeah. Yes.
think.
Yeah.
And
That's huge. That's huge.
yeah. And so I think if I go up now, it's like a upgrade. And I think the last time I
Hmm.
went up when I was in New York and I went into the void. Because I saw like this Stargate in the sky with my 3D eyes, and I was like, I want to go in there. And then, they were
They're
like,
like, okay.
well, no, and then I forgot about it, and then my doorbell rang, and then they sent me through the Stargate, and I was like, oh, I should have just gone.
Hmm.
And then that's when I had a bit of an upgrade, a bit of a stretch. And I have to negotiate with them now. I'm like, if we're having an upgrade, can you not knock me out for so long? Like, could it be
Yeah.
quicker?
Yeah. And so the light language, because I've had a couple sessions with you, and the light language it's incredible and it's undeniable. Like it is, once you've experienced it, it's undeniable. And it's also so clear it's not coming from your brain, right? Like, so can you talk a little bit, like, is that something that's transferred from them to you? Is that what is happening? How did that come through for you?
Yeah.
What's your experience being the one sharing it?
Right. So I didn't want to be the light language girl. I just really didn't. I was like, it's weird. I can't be bothered. I'm already weird. Like, stop making me weirder. And and then I was in Santa Monica actually, and I went into Mystic Journey bookstore with my friend, and there was this lady there who did soul songs. She said it. She's like, you can pay me and I'll sing you your soul song. And I was like, oh nah, I think it's cool. Like, thanks though. And then like walked out. I was like, let's sing our own soul songs, like to my friend. And she turned around to me and she was like, la da da, like just being a dick. And I was like, that was so bad. I'm so glad I didn't pay you for that. And then I was like, let me sing you your soul song. And so we're standing on Main Street in Santa Monica, and all of a sudden it's just like we went zoop, And then I just dropped in this language. We were standing on the street. I was doing light language for like 5 minutes. And then we came out of it. And she was like, and I was like, and, and then she was like, she's like, everything's different. And I'm like, everything's different. And it's like, nothing looked the same anymore. It looked like we were
Wild.
on a different planet. And I was like, holy shit. And then as soon as that dropped in, it's just been incorporated into my sessions. It helps me do my sessions a lot quicker now. The way I describe it is it's a sound medicine, and it's basically like, I've been told it's like an old ancient Lemurian language or modality that is like, it works like a pharmacist, and the sound medicine works in collaboration with your cells to bring your cells back into wholeness slash download you a new blueprint or download you more information or whatever it is.
That's pretty insane. And how does it work for you? Like, do you do light language on yourself?
It
Like,
just
do
comes in.
you,
It's just like, I feel like this pressure. I'm like, oh, but because I have really good boundaries, like with the universe of being Molly the Oracle and Molly the Human, when I book a session, my body and my brain knows that you're in Oracle mode then. So it
mm-hmm,
knows to download a specific code for this person.
mm-hmm,
Whereas if other people just ask randomly for it when they haven't booked, it won't come until it's ready to come. And I just
yeah.
know that it is there. And then sometimes, like, I'll do it just randomly for me. Like, I'll be walking along and yeah, it just comes whenever it comes.
It's so cool. It's so magical. And did you tell me that you, or did I hear you say that you're like creating kind of a library of light language
Yeah.
that like people could use like
I'm
meditations?
going to do a code library on my website. So
That's so cool.
they're brewing, and it'll just be like, an anxiety relief or, bring back into wholeness or whatever, just like little snippets.
I think sound is the new, like, I think 2025 is the year people really like align with sound and audio vibration and really understand how important it is.
Yeah.
Um, how can people like I know you have the mothership. Can you tell us about that? Like, how can people tune in with you, hang out with you, get, gain wisdom from you? What do you have going on?
Mothership. So it's an online community, but just Instagram's easy because that's where my links are, and I just post whatever on there. And there's old podcasts that I've done. If there's so many. I'm kind of just everywhere, but I call Instagram the center point for now. I'm not attached to it, but hopefully next year I can get this book published. I really want to get this book published, and then, which I will. But yeah, so it'll all happen.
What's the headline of the book? What's the book about?
Well, it's called Another Fucking Spiritual Book.
Yes. Very on brand. I love it. I
Because
love
I
it.
was so annoyed when I was writing it. I was like, oh, another one? I'm like, for God's sake, right? But that's kind of the angle. My guides or me or whoever was just like, just write what you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is what I've done in order to get to a feeling like this inside my soul that I'm not lying about when I say I am
Yeah.
genuinely happy. Follow if you want, pick out the bits that you do want, chuck out the
Yeah.
rest, read it. Like, whoever, I don't care if 2 people read it and it changes their lives, great. I'm not attached to it, but
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
it is something that could help people.
I love that. What's the greatest wisdom that you want to share with
All
people?
right, let me see.
Hmm.
Okay. Interesting. So this is I believe everybody who's listening to this are probably on a journey of self-development and personal growth, right? And I think there is a trap that you can fall into, the healing trap of thinking that, if you have like a setback or an emotion or whatever, you feel like you're back at square one and you need to like scramble, scramble, scramble and try and find the reason why you feel like that and go back to your childhood and blah, 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 blah. I genuinely feel like the people who are going to hear this, you have done enough personal development work on yourself to just tell a new story. You're allowed to tell a new story now. You don't have to keep going back and identifying with, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. Like, yes, it did happen, and it gave you the wisdom, the understanding. It took you on that big full circle journey to be able to learn different parts of yourself and all of that. But if you keep like going back and telling that story, that's where you're going to live. So I believe the biggest wisdom is take your hand off the momentum wheel and face this way, especially for 2025, and tell a new story.
No surprise. That's so dead on for this community. That's so dead on and exactly what we needed to hear.
Yes!
She strikes again. Molly, you are such an expander. Like you're such a light. You just have gotten brighter and brighter through my eyes in this conversation. Like your brightness, your lightness, your like everything about you is just, it's like I could tear up. It's so, I don't even have the words. It's so refreshing. It's so expansive. It's so expansive for me, and I'm sure for anyone who ever comes in contact with you. So like, thank you. Thank you for leading, and thank you for helping give the rest of us permission. It's really incredible, and it's such an amazing service that you're doing for all of us.
It's really nice. But I just want to remind you though, like, for you to be able to even see that, that's a reflection of your soul, right? And, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And, you know, what is so vibrant within you, and you're seeing that, like that's what you are. Like, it's like, I'm just a reflection of your reality right now. Like, that's all it is. That's all it is.
It's, yeah. And thank you for the, like, I think that is the new, this is the type of people we should be, you know, taking wisdom from, is like the person who is always putting the power back in your hands. Because again, what we talked about in the beginning, we are all one, we are all powerful, we are all the creators, we are all God. Like, any of this like guruization, I don't think that's a word, but like, yes, the gurus, the separation, the like, yes, that's all done. And like, yeah, I just like, I think for sure everyone listening, like, I have done a few sessions with Molly. They've been incredible. So I highly recommend that. But certainly, at the very least, like, follow her on social media. Like, the wisdom that you put out is so great. And you do it in such a fun way. Again, like the authenticity and like the lightness and the like that vibe that you said, that it's not that serious. You put out, everything you share is in that energy, and it's such a helpful, even when you're not saying like it's not that serious, it's just such a helpful reminder to all of us of the energy that we want to be in. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And just anyone who is listening, like, just remember to be proud of yourself. Like, there's no spot you need to get to. There's no spot you need to get to. Like, you're doing it. You're here, you're doing it.
Yeah.
And it
yeah.
perfect, and it's enough, and this is it. This is it.
This is it. We're living. All right. Thank you so much, Molly. You're the best. All right, guys. We'll see you soon.